Have you ever felt like there's more to life than what you're living right now? Maybe you sense you have more to give, bigger dreams to chase, or a better version of yourself waiting just outside your comfort zone, but something keeps stopping you. If so, this book is for you. Limitless Life, The Magic of Thinking Big, was written because I believe that most people live with invisible barriers they don't even realize are there. We tell ourselves stories about who we are and what's possible, and over time, those stories become our reality. We settle for what feels familiar, play it safe, and often end up wondering, what if I had tried? This book is a guide to breaking out of those patterns. It will show you why your life often matches the limits of your thinking, not your true abilities. You'll learn how to spot the beliefs and habits that hold you back, and how to build new ones that help you move forward. You'll discover practical ways to build confidence, take action even when you're scared, and stay consistent even when motivation fades. You'll also see why the people you spend time with matter so much, and how to find or build a circle that inspires you to grow. And as you move through these ideas, you'll find that real fulfillment doesn't come from chasing trophies or recognition, but from using your gifts to make a difference in the lives of others. This book is not about quick fixes or pretending that big dreams are easy. It's about choosing to take responsibility for your life, trying new things even when they're uncomfortable, and building steady progress one step at a time. It's about understanding that you don't have to wait for the perfect moment to start. You just have to begin, right where you are. If you're ready to see how far you can really go, the tools and stories in these pages are here for you. You don't need anyone else's permission. The journey to a bigger, more meaningful life starts now. Let's get started. Chapter 1: Breaking Limits. Everything you currently believe about your limitations is a lie you told yourself so many times it started to sound like the truth. Look around you right now. Your career, your bank account, your relationships, and your daily routine are not the result of your capability. They are the result of your tolerance. You are currently living a life that is exactly the size of your thinking. Not a penny more, not an inch wider. Most people spend their entire lives waiting for a permission slip to be great. They wait for the right time, the right economy, or the right feeling of confidence. They live in a perpetual state of rehearsal for a life they never actually step into. If you are reading this, it is because you suspect that you have been playing a game far smaller than the one you were designed for. You feel a friction between the person you present to the world and the person you secretly know you could be. You are in the right place. This is not a book about fixing you, because you are not broken. This is a book about breaking the outdated programming that has kept you running on a loop. We are going to dismantle the invisible ceiling that has capped your potential, and we are going to do it by attacking the root cause of every result you have ever gotten: your thinking. The silent saboteur. You might think your biggest problem is a lack of resources, a lack of time, or a lack of luck. It is none of those things. Your biggest problem is that you have been living on autopilot. The human brain is an efficiency machine designed to keep you safe, not to make you legendary. To keep you safe, it creates a comfort zone, a mental enclosure defined by what is familiar. We call this the thermostat effect. Imagine your life has an internal temperature setting. This setting is determined by your self-image and your beliefs about what you deserve. If your setting is calibrated to average, your life will fight to stay there. When things get too hot, perhaps you make a sudden leap in income, or you get a massive opportunity, your internal alarm bells ring. You unconsciously self-sabotage to cool things down back to your comfort level. You procrastinate, you pick a fight, or you waste the money. Conversely, if things get too cold and you hit rock bottom, you suddenly find the drive to hustle your way back to your baseline. This is why willpower alone fails. You can try to force your behavior to change, but if your internal thermostat is set to struggling, you will eventually cool back down to the level of struggle. You are fighting your own psychology. You have likely spent years telling yourself stories like, "I am not that kind of person," or "people like me don't do things like that." These are not observations of reality. They are commands. Every time you think a thought like that, you are laying another brick in the wall that separates you from the life you want. We confuse comfort with safety. We think that staying in a job we have outgrown or a routine that bores us is safe because it is predictable. But in a rapidly changing world, refusal to stretch is the riskiest move you can make. Comfort does not lead to stability, it leads to atrophy. When you stop challenging your mental limits, your ability to handle life shrinks. You are not standing still, you are slowly fading. The compound interest of regret. If you change nothing, where will you be in 5 years? Stop and actually visualize it. If you keep your current habits, your current fears, and your current level of thinking, what does your life look like? For most people, the answer is terrifying because the answer is exactly the same. This is the trap of life on repeat. Days turn into weeks, weeks into months, and suddenly a decade has passed where you have been busy, but you haven't moved. You have been running on a treadmill, sweating and exhausting yourself, only to step off and realize you are in the exact same spot where you started. The cost of small thinking is not paid all at once. It is paid on an installment plan with interest. It shows up as the slow erosion of your self-respect. Every time you see an opportunity and back away because you think, I couldn't handle that, you send a signal to your brain that you are weak. Every time you see someone with less talent than you succeeding because they had the audacity to bet on themselves, a little bit of your spirit dies. This is how regret compounds. Regret is not usually about the things we did and failed at. It is almost always about the things we never tried. It is the gnawing question of what if? What if you had started that business? What if you had demanded more from your life? The pain of discipline weighs ounces, but the pain of regret weighs tons. You are heading toward a future where you will either look back with pride at the risks you took, or you will look back with bitterness at the safety you clung to. The choice is being made right now in the quiet privacy of your own mind. The identity trap. Why is it so hard to break out? Why do we cling to mediocrity even when we crave greatness? It is because we fall into the "this is just me" trap. We confuse our habits with our personality. You might say, I am a procrastinator, or I am shy, or I am not a leader. You treat these labels as if they were tattooed on your DNA. They are not. They are simply behaviors you have repeated until they felt permanent. But when you label yourself, you freeze your growth. If you believe you are bad with money, your brain will filter out investment opportunities because they don't match the label. If you believe you are socially awkward, you will avoid the very networks that could accelerate your career. This creates a dangerous feedback loop. You think small, so you act small. Because you act small, you get small results. And then you look at those small results and say, see, I knew I wasn't capable of more. This is confirmation bias in action. Your mind is constantly editing reality to prove your existing beliefs right. The emotional fallout of this trap is toxic. When you deny your own potential, that energy doesn't just disappear. It turns inward. It becomes resentment. You start to look at people who are winning, people who are living the limitless life, and you feel a spike of envy. You might hide it behind cynicism or sarcasm, rolling your eyes at their ambition. But that cynicism is just a defense mechanism. It is a wall you build to protect yourself from the pain of admitting that you could be doing the same thing, if only you were willing to let go of your excuses. The architecture of change. To break these limits, we cannot just try harder. We have to operate differently. Most people try to change their lives by changing their actions first. They say, I will start working harder tomorrow, but they haven't changed the underlying software. They haven't changed the thermostat. Real transformation follows a specific order: identity, beliefs, vision, action. You must first shift how you see yourself. You have to stop identifying as a person who struggles and start identifying as a person who overcomes. This is what we will explore in the Identity Blueprint. You cannot outperform your self-image. If you see yourself as a victim of circumstance, no amount of strategy will save you. Once the identity shifts, the beliefs follow. You move from I can't to how can I? You stop looking for proof that it is possible and start creating the proof through your efforts. This leads to a bold vision, where you stop drifting and start driving. And finally, that vision demands fearless action. Notice that action comes last. Action is the result of the other three. When you see yourself as a limitless operator, when you believe in your capacity to figure things out, and when you have a vision that pulls you forward, action becomes inevitable. It stops being a chore and starts being a reflex. The winners pivot. There is a fundamental difference in attitude between those who win and those who lose in the game of life. It is not about talent, it is about responsibility. The loser mindset is defined by externalization. When things go wrong or when they feel stuck, they look out the window to find someone to blame. They blame the economy, their boss, their upbringing, or their lack of time. Their favorite phrase is, I can't because. They view their life as something that happens to them. The winner mindset is defined by ownership. Winners look in the mirror. They recognize that their current life is a printout of their past thinking. If they don't like the printout, they don't yell at the printer, they change the file. They ask, what is the next move? They understand that no one is coming to save them. This is your turning point. You have to decide right now which mindset you will live from. You have to make a pact with yourself that you are done with excuses. You are done with the story that you are a victim of your limitations. You are going to adopt a new rule. Fear and doubt are passengers in the car, but they are never allowed to drive. Your first breach. You are going to finish this book with a completely different operating system. But we need to make a breach in the wall today. We need to prove to your brain that the ceiling is an illusion. Identify one area where you have been playing small. Maybe it is a conversation you have been avoiding. Maybe it is a project you haven't launched. Maybe it is a price you haven't raised. You have a story in your head about why you can't do it. Challenge that story. Ask yourself, is this physically impossible or is it just uncomfortable? The goal of this book is to get you to a place where you no longer recognize the person you used to be. We are going to build a success circle around you that normalizes excellence. We are going to create growth momentum so that winning becomes a habit rather than a struggle. We are going to take you beyond self to a place where your success lifts everyone around you. But it all starts with the realization that the cage door is open. The only thing keeping you inside is the habit of staying inside. You have lived long enough with the safety on. It is time to disengage it. However, recognizing the cage is only the first step. Walking out of it requires something more than just desire. You can't take your old self into a new life. The baggage is too heavy. To truly step into a limitless future, you have to do something that feels dangerous. You have to go down into the engine room of your psychology and rewrite the very definition of who you are. Most people never do this because they are afraid of what they might find. Or worse, they are afraid that they are stuck with who they have always been. They are wrong. But to fix it, we have to look at the blueprint you have been carrying around since childhood, the one that dictates every decision you make before you even realize you are making it. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to Grow to the Top and activate notifications to receive more self-improvement tips that will supercharge your growth. And make sure to give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. It really helps the channel grow. Thank you for your support. Chapter 2, Identity Blueprint. You have likely experienced this specific frustration before. You decide to make a change. You buy the planner, you set the alarm, you map out the schedule, and for 3 days, you are a machine. You feel unstoppable. But then, life happens. A stressful email lands in your inbox, or you get a poor night's sleep and suddenly that new behavior vanishes. You snap back to your old routine like a rubber band stretched too far. You probably blamed your discipline. You probably told yourself you just didn't want it bad enough. But that is not what happened. You didn't fail because you were lazy. You failed because you were trying to run a new piece of software on an old operating system. You are trying to act like a high performer while still walking around with the internal identity of someone who struggles. This is the engine room of your life. We are going to open up the hood and look at the machinery that dictates every decision you make before you are even aware you are making it. This is about your identity blueprint. Until you rewrite the code here, every strategy you learn in this book will be temporary. But once you shift this blueprint, the actions that currently feel impossible will start to feel like the only natural thing to do. The invisible ceiling. Your life will never consistently outperform your self-image. This is a law of human psychology that is as reliable as gravity. You might get lucky and surge past your limits for a week or a month, but if your identity doesn't expand to match that new success, you will unconsciously sabotage yourself to get back to where you belong. Think of your identity as a thermostat. If you view yourself as a person who is bad with money and you suddenly receive a windfall, your internal alarm goes off. The temperature is too high. It doesn't match the setting. So you find ways to cool it down. You overspend, you lend it to people who won't pay you back, or you ignore your accounts until the balance drops back to the struggle zone. Once you are back to zero, you relax. You are back in alignment with who you believe you are. This explains why you see the same patterns repeating in your life, year after year, regardless of the external circumstances. You change jobs, but you end up with the same friction with your boss. You change relationships, but you end up with the same dynamic. You set new goals, but you hit the same plateau. These aren't curses. They are the boundaries of your current identity. Your identity is your autopilot. When you are rested and motivated, you can grab the wheel and steer manually. You can force yourself to do things that feel out of character, but the moment you get tired, stressed, or rushed, you let go of the wheel. The autopilot kicks in, and the autopilot always steers you toward the behavior that matches your I am statements. If your default setting is I am a procrastinator, then under stress, you will delay. If your default is I am a finisher, then under stress, you will push through. Changing your life requires reprogramming this autopilot so that your default reaction is the one that leads to success. Architecting the new you. The problem is that most people think their identity is a fixed object, like a statue carved in stone. They say things like, I'm just an anxious person, or I'm not a leader, as if they are reporting the weather. They don't realize that these are not facts. They are stories. They are a collection of habits and beliefs that have hardened over time. You need to map your current identity before you can change it. This starts with the I am statements you use every day. Listen to the voice in your head. Does it say, I am disciplined, or does it say, I am messy? Does it say, I am a creator, or I am a consumer? Some of these labels were chosen by you, but many were inherited. You might be carrying around a label a teacher gave you when you were 7 years old, or a role you played in your family dynamic. You have been wearing a costume that was handed to you, and you have forgotten that you can take it off. Designing your next level you is not about fantasy, it is about architectural precision. You need to define the traits and standards of the person who has achieved the vision you want. If your vision is to build a massive business, the identity required might be I am decisive and I am resilient. If your vision is to have deep connected relationships, the identity might be I am present and I am a listener. This new identity must be specific. Vague concepts like I am successful are too blurry for your brain to act on. You need behavioral markers. A better identity statement is, I am the type of person who does the hard work first. That is a command your brain can follow. It provides a clear instruction for how to behave when you sit down at your desk. The lies we tell the mirror. There are 3 major myths that keep people trapped in their old blueprints. The first is the belief that this is just who I am. This is the ultimate excuse. It absolves you of responsibility. The truth is that personality is fluid. You are a different person today than you were 10 years ago. You have different tastes, different fears, and different skills. If you can change over a decade by accident, imagine how much you can change in a year on purpose. Identity is an ongoing story, and you are the author, not the character. The second myth is the habit-first fallacy. People think, if I just do the workout every day, I will become an athlete. While habits are crucial, if your identity is, I am lazy and I hate sweating, you will be fighting a war against yourself every single morning. The friction will be unbearable. You will eventually quit because the behavior feels like a lie. Identity and habits must reinforce each other. You don't just run, you become a runner. The shift in self-perception makes the habit sustainable. The third myth is fake it till you make it. This advice is dangerous because it implies you are a fraud. It suggests you are tricking people. This creates imposter syndrome and anxiety. Do not fake it. Instead, act as if. There is a subtle but powerful difference. When you act as if, you are practicing. You are trying on the new identity to see how it fits. You are not lying, you are rehearsing. You are consciously stepping into a new mode of being, grounded in the intention to grow, not the desire to deceive. The rewrite protocol. Now we move to the practical application. You cannot think your way into a new identity. You have to act your way into it. But you need a plan. First, conduct a brutal audit. Write down your dominant I am statements in the key areas of your life: career, money, relationships, and health. Look at them on the paper. Label them as either expansive or restrictive. I am a fast learner is expansive. I am bad with technology is restrictive. Identify the 3 most dangerous restrictive identities you are currently holding on to. These are the chains keeping you small. Next, create your identity blueprint. Rewrite those restrictive statements into growth-oriented versions. But here is the key. You must add a because or a behavioral proof. Change I am disorganized to I am focused because I set my priorities every morning. Change I am shy to I am a connector because I take interest in others. You are giving your brain a new logic to follow. Finally, you must cast votes for this new identity. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. If you want to be a writer, every time you write a sentence, you cast a vote for that identity. If you want to be a leader, every time you make a tough decision, you cast a vote. You don't need a landslide victory immediately. You just need to start winning the majority of the votes. Keep a simple record. Did you act like your next level you today? If yes, you are cementing that reality. Hacking the system. There are psychological tricks you can use to speed up this process. One of the most effective is using the third-person perspective. When you are facing a difficult choice, stop asking, "What should I do?" Instead, ask, "What would the future you do?" Use your own name. If your name is Sarah, ask, "What would the limitless Sarah do right now?" This creates emotional distance between your old fears and your new decision. It allows you to step out of your current feelings and consult your future self as a mentor. You should also anchor your identity to your environment. Your physical space reinforces who you are. If your desk is chaotic, it reinforces the I am messy identity. If you dress sloppily, it reinforces the I don't care identity. Change the cues. Set up your workspace like a professional. Dress like the leader you intend to be, even if you are working from home. Create a short ritual before you start your work, maybe putting on headphones or clearing the table that signals to your brain, the pro is clocking in. Speak your identity out loud. This sounds simple, but it cuts through the noise. Before you walk into a negotiation, say to yourself, "I am prepared and I bring value." Before you start a difficult project, say, "I am a person who figures things out." You are overriding the negative loop in your head with a deliberate command. The shift. When you do this work, the outcome is not just better results. It is a sense of congruence. The war inside your head stops. You no longer feel like you are dragging a heavy weight uphill. You feel aligned. The decisions that used to paralyze you become obvious because they are the only decisions that fit the person you have decided to be. In the best-case scenario, your identity becomes your greatest asset. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy of growth. When a massive opportunity appears, you don't shrink back and say, "Who am I to do this?" You step forward and say, "This is exactly what someone like me does." Your identity pulls you toward greatness rather than holding you back. Weathering the turbulence. Be warned, This transition will not be smooth. As you shift your identity, you will feel like a fraud. This is normal. It is called cognitive dissonance. Your old self is fighting to survive. When you feel that discomfort, do not retreat. Recognize it as growing pains. It is proof that you are stretching. You will also face pushback from others. The people around you have a vested interest in you staying the same because it makes them feel comfortable. When you start acting differently, they might say, "You've changed," or "Who do you think you are?" Do not apologize. Calmly restate your new standards. You are teaching them how to treat the new you. If they cannot handle it, that is data you will need for a later chapter. You will slip, stress will hit, and you will find yourself acting out your old patterns. Do not spiral into shame. Shame is a tool of the old identity. Instead, use the if-then technique. Plan for the slip. Tell yourself, if I fall back into old habits, then I will immediately take one small action to vote for my new identity. Treat the slip as data, not a verdict. You now have the blueprint. You know that you are the architect of your own character. You know that you can rewrite the scripts that have been running your life. But a blueprint is useless if it is built on a swamp. You can design the most magnificent identity in the world, but if the ground underneath it is unstable, the structure will collapse. That ground is made of your beliefs. Not just what you believe about yourself, but what you believe about reality itself. There are silent assumptions you are making about what is possible, what is realistic, and how the world works. These assumptions are the invisible laws you live by, and right now, they are far too strict. We need to shatter them. Chapter 3: Bigger Beliefs. You are currently operating under a set of invisible rules that you did not write. These rules dictate exactly how much money you are allowed to earn, how much happiness you are allowed to feel, and how much impact you are allowed to have. You likely think these rules are objective facts about the world, like gravity or the speed of light. You think that your limitations are based on your education, your background, or the economy. You are wrong. These are not facts, they are beliefs. And right now, your beliefs are the single biggest bottleneck in your life. If you have ever wondered why you can work incredibly hard but still hit the same income ceiling year after year, or why you self-sabotage relationships the moment they start going well, you are dealing with a belief problem. You have a mental governor installed in your mind, similar to the device they put on rental trucks to keep them from driving too fast. No matter how hard you press the accelerator, that is your effort and willpower, the engine cuts out at a specific speed. That speed is set by what you believe is possible for you. We are going to dismantle that governor. We are going to find the silent assumptions that have been shrinking your life and replace them with a new operating code that makes bold action not just possible, but inevitable. The silent architects. Most people misunderstand what a belief actually is. They think of it in religious or spiritual terms, or they think of it as a casual opinion. In the context of high performance, a belief is simply a rehearsed thought. It is an assumption that you have repeated to yourself so many times that your brain has stopped questioning it and started treating it as absolute truth. These beliefs act as the architects of your reality. They function as a filter for your attention. The human brain is bombarded with millions of bits of information every second. To keep you from going insane, your brain has to filter out 99.9% of that data. The filter it uses is your belief system. If you believe opportunities are scarce, your brain will literally blind you to the opportunities right in front of your face because they do not match your filter. If you believe, "I am not good at sales," your brain will highlight every awkward moment you have in a conversation and delete every moment where you were persuasive. This is why two people can walk into the same room, attend the same event, or work in the same market and see two completely different worlds. One sees a landscape of potential and connection. The other sees a landscape of rejection and risk. They are not living in different worlds. They are living in different belief systems. The danger is that these beliefs create what psychologists call an upper limit. This is your tolerance for success. When you exceed your internal limit, When things get too good too fast, your beliefs scream that this is unsafe. You feel a spike of anxiety. You feel like a fraud. To relieve that anxiety, you unconsciously do something to bring yourself back down to the level your beliefs say you deserve. You pick a fight with your partner, you ignore a critical deadline, or you waste your new income on nonsense. You are not unlucky. You are simply obeying the hidden rules of your own mind. The lie you live by. The most dangerous beliefs are the ones you don't even know you have. They hide in plain sight, masquerading as reality. You might say, "I'm just being realistic," or "that is just how the industry works." Be very careful when you use those phrases. Realism is often just a socially acceptable excuse for pessimism. You need to understand the difference between a fact and a belief. A fact is that you have $100 in your bank account. A belief is that I will never be wealthy. A fact is that you failed your last business venture. A belief is that I am a failure. Do you see the difference? The fact is a data point. The belief is the story you tell yourself about what that data point means. The problem is that you treat your stories as if they were facts. You have likely spent years gathering evidence to support the prosecution's case against your own potential. Every time you stumbled, you filed it away as proof that you aren't good enough. Every time you succeeded, you dismissed it as luck. You have rigged the trial against yourself. This creates a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because you believe you aren't capable of big things, you don't attempt big things. Because you don't attempt them, you don't get the results. And the lack of results reinforces the belief. It is a closed loop. The only way to break it is to intervene at the level of belief, not at the level of result. You cannot wait for the evidence to change before you change your mind. You have to change your mind to create the new evidence. The myth of proof. There is a pervasive myth that you need confidence or proof before you can believe in yourself. People say, "I'll believe I can make $1 million when I see the money," or "I'll believe I'm a leader when I get the promotion." This is backward. It violates the mechanics of how the human mind works. Waiting for proof is a trap. If you wait for external validation to give you permission to believe in your own capacity, you will be waiting forever. The world does not give big results to people with small beliefs. The world reflects your conviction back to you. Another dangerous myth is that positive thinking is the solution. Let's be clear. This is not about standing in front of a mirror and chanting happy slogans while your life falls apart. That is delusion. That is trying to put whipped cream on garbage. We are not talking about pretending that everything is perfect. We are talking about strategic belief. Strategic belief is not about ignoring difficulties. It is about interpreting them differently. When a positive thinker fails, they might try to smile and pretend it doesn't hurt. When a strategic believer fails, they look at the failure and think, "This is data. This is the price of admission. I am learning how to win." They don't deny the failure. They deny the interpretation that the failure defines them. The excavation process. So how do you actually change these deep-seated programs? You cannot just wish them away. You have to excavate them. The most effective way to find your limiting beliefs is to look at your current results. Your life is a perfect printout of your subconscious beliefs. If you want to know what you believe about money, look at your bank account. If you want to know what you believe about your worth, look at how your friends treat you. Pick an area of your life where you feel stuck. Maybe it is your career. You have been at the same level for 3 years. Now, ask yourself a brutal question. What would someone have to believe to keep creating this result? If you are honest, you might find answers like, "I believe that making more money requires sacrificing my freedom." Or, "I believe that if I stand out, I will be criticized." Or, "I believe that I am not smart enough to play at the next level." Write these down. Do not judge them. Just capture them. These are the invisible chains. Once you see them on paper, they lose some of their power. You realize they are just thoughts, not laws of physics. The upgrade protocol. Once you have identified the limiting belief, you must replace it, but you cannot simply swap a negative for a positive and expect it to stick. Your brain is a logic machine. It needs a reason to accept the new code. We use a framework called belief replacement. Take your limiting belief, for example. I am not good at public speaking. Now, write a growth version. But do not write, I am the world's greatest speaker if you have never been on stage. Your brain will reject that as a lie. Instead, write a bridge belief. I am becoming a powerful speaker because I am willing to practice and learn from every rep. Notice the structure. It acknowledges the process, becoming, and it gives a rational reason, because I am willing to practice. This makes the belief believable. It gives your mind a ladder to climb rather than asking it to teleport. You must then validate this new belief with action. A belief without action is just a hallucination. You need to do something small today that proves the new belief is true. If your new belief is that you are a connector, send one message to someone you admire. That single action is a vote. It tells your brain, see, we really are doing this. The power of yet. There is a simple linguistic trick that can bypass your internal resistance almost instantly. It is the word yet. When you catch yourself saying, I can't do this, or I don't understand this, or I'm not at that level, you must immediately add the word yet to the end of the sentence. I can't do this yet. I don't have the resources yet. This tiny word changes the neural pathway in your brain. I can't is a dead end. It shuts down problem solving. It tells your brain to stop looking for answers. Not yet is a doorway. It implies that the current situation is temporary. It presupposes that success is coming, it just hasn't arrived. It keeps your brain in search mode. You should also practice reframing your questions. When things go wrong, the automatic negative thought is usually, why is this happening to me? This is a victim question. It forces your brain to look for reasons why you are a victim. Swap it for a builder question. What is this trying to teach me? Or how can I use this? If you lose a client, the victim asks, why do I always mess up? The builder asks, what system was missing that caused this? And how do I build it so it never happens again? The event is the same. The belief about the event changes everything. Exposure to giants. Finally, you must understand that your beliefs are contagious. You catch them from the people and the environment around you. If you are surrounded by people who believe that a 5% raise is the best they can hope for, you will adopt that ceiling. To upgrade your beliefs, you must expose yourself to bigger models. You need to see people who are playing the game at a level that makes you uncomfortable. You need to read their biographies, listen to their interviews, and if possible, get in the room with them. When you see someone who grew up in a similar town with similar resources achieving 100 times what you are achieving, it shatters your excuse that it's not possible. It forces you to admit that it is possible, just not with your current operating system. This is not about comparison or jealousy. It is about proof of concept. You are using their lives as evidence to present to the jury in your mind. You are saying, look, the limit I thought existed is not real. The force multiplier. When you get this right, your beliefs become a force multiplier. Every hour of work you put in yields double or triple the results because you are not fighting against your own subconscious. You stop driving with the parking brake on. You will start to default to I can learn this instead of I can't do this. You will interpret setbacks as feedback rather than failure. You will move through the world with a quiet conviction that your goals are inevitable provided you do the work. But be warned, this is not a one-time fix. Your old beliefs are persistent. They will try to sneak back in during moments of high stress or fatigue. You have to be vigilant. You have to stand guard at the door of your mind. You now have a new identity and bigger beliefs. You know who you are becoming, and you believe that you are capable of the journey. The engine is primed, the fuel is in the tank, but an engine without a steering wheel is just noise. You can have all the belief in the world, but if you don't know exactly where you are going, you will just drive in circles at high speed. We have cleared the fog of doubt. Now we need to look at the horizon. It is time to decide, with absolute precision, what you are actually aiming at. Because if you don't choose your future, someone else will choose it for you. Chapter Bold Vision. Most people are not moving toward a destination. They are simply moving away from problems. They work hard to get away from poverty, away from loneliness, or away from boredom. They spend their entire lives looking in the rearview mirror, reacting to what is chasing them, rather than looking through the windshield at where they are going. This is called the drift. It's a state of existence where you are busy, tired, and stressed, but you are not actually advancing. You are like a ship in the middle of the ocean with the engines running at full power, but the rudder stuck in a fixed position. You are making waves, you are burning fuel, but you are effectively going in circles. If you do not have a clear, terrifyingly bold vision for your future, you have already made a decision. You have decided to stay exactly where you are. In the absence of a target, your brain defaults to the path of least resistance, which is always the path you are currently on. This chapter is about stopping the drift. It is about turning your life from a random walk into a targeted mission. We are going to take the upgraded identity and beliefs you have built and give them a place to go. The Great Drift. The most dangerous lie you can tell yourself is that you will figure it out as you go. You won't. If you don't know where you are going, every road looks like the right road until you have walked down it for 5 years and realized it leads nowhere. Lack of vision is the primary cause of anxiety in high-potential people. When you don't have a North Star, every decision feels heavy. Should you take that job? Should you move to that city? Should you start that project? Without a vision, you have no filter. You have to weigh every option based on immediate pros and cons, which is exhausting. When you have a bold vision, decision-making becomes binary. It simplifies your life instantly. You simply ask, does this move me closer to the vision, or does it take me further away? If it takes you closer, the answer is yes. If it takes you away, the answer is no. It doesn't matter how much money it pays or how prestigious it looks. If it doesn't align with the destination, it is a distraction. Vision organizes your effort. It acts like a magnet. Iron filings scattered on a table are a mess, but if you run a magnet over them, they all align in the same direction. Your energy, time, and attention are currently scattered. A bold vision magnetizes them. It gives your struggle a purpose. You can endure almost any how if you have a strong enough why. People who burn out usually don't burn out because they are working too hard. They burn out because they have forgotten what they are working for. High-definition destiny. The problem with most people's goals is that they are too vague to provoke a response from the brain. You might say, I want to be successful, or I want to be free, or I want to be happy. These are not visions, these are wishes. They are fuzzy, warm concepts that mean nothing to your subconscious mind. Your brain is a GPS system. If you type somewhere nice into your GPS, the car will not move. You need coordinates. You need to move from low-resolution wishes to high-definition pictures. You need to define exactly what limitless looks like for you. We are talking about sensory details. If your vision involves wealth, what does your morning look like? Where are you waking up? What work are you doing? Who are you having dinner with? If your vision involves impact, whose lives are changing? What problems are you solving? This is not about daydreaming. It is about design. You are the architect of a house you are going to live in. You wouldn't tell a builder to build something nice. You would give them blueprints. Your bold vision is the blueprint for your next 3 to 5 years. It needs to be so clear that you can close your eyes and walk around in it. When a vision is this vivid, it raises your standards automatically. This is the hidden power of thinking big. When you see yourself as a future leader of your industry, showing up late or turning in sloppy work becomes physically painful. It creates cognitive dissonance. Your current low-effort choices clash with your future reality. You stop saying, I should do this, and start saying, I must do this. The vision pulls you out of the petty conflicts and small thinking that used to consume your day because you realize they don't belong in the future you are building. The certainty addiction. There is a myth that you should only set goals that you know you can hit. This is the smart goal trap that keeps people small. We are told to be realistic, but realism is usually just a justification for mediocrity. If you know exactly how you're going to achieve your goal, the goal is too small. You are addicted to certainty. You want to see the entire staircase before you take the first step. But growth lives in the zone of uncertainty. If you are not at least 20% terrified by your vision, it is not a vision, it is a to-do list. We are aiming for what we call stretch goals. These are targets that sit right on the edge of your current capacity. They force you to become a different person to achieve them. A goal that you can hit with your current skills and habits is useless for growth. You want a goal that demands an upgrade. Do not worry about the how yet. The how is the killer of dreams. When you set a bold vision, your logical brain will immediately scream, "But we don't know how to do that." That is fine. You are not supposed to know how yet. The what drives the how. Once you are committed to the destination, your brain will start looking for the route. If you wait until you see the route to choose the destination, you will never leave the driveway. Engineering the stretch. To create this vision, you need to perform a future snapshot exercise. Imagine it is 3 years from today. Everything has gone better than you could have possibly imagined. You have executed perfectly. You have had a little bit of luck. Write out a day in the life of that future version of you. Don't edit it. Don't let the voice of realism correct your grammar or your ambition. Capture the texture of that life. What are you proud of? What is your bank balance? What is your physical energy like? From this snapshot, extract 3 to 5 major outcomes. These are your stretch goals. Maybe it is launching a business that hits a specific revenue number. Maybe it is getting into the best physical shape of your life. Maybe it is writing this book. These goals must be specific and measurable. Get in shape is not a goal. Deadlift 300 pounds is a goal. Make more money is not a goal. Earn $200,000 this year is a goal. Specificity breeds action. Ambiguity breeds procrastination. Once you have these stretch goals, you need to check them against the work we did in the previous chapters. Do these goals align with your new identity blueprint? Do your bigger beliefs support them? If your vision is to be a global speaker, but your belief is still "I am shy and awkward," you have a conflict. You need to either upgrade the belief or adjust the vision. Usually, you need to upgrade the belief. The one-sentence filter. Complexity is the enemy of execution. You can have a 3-page description of your future life, and you should, but you cannot carry that around in your head every minute of the day. You need a mantra. Condense your bold vision into a single, memorable sentence. This is your North Star statement. It should be punchy and present tense. I am building the premier design agency in the state. I am leading a movement to revolutionize local education. Repeat this sentence daily. Use it as a filter. When a new opportunity comes up, a partnership, a social event, a side project, hold it up against your one-sentence vision. If it fits, great. If it doesn't, you have the clarity to say no without guilt. You also need visual anchors. The idea of a vision board has been cheapened by pop culture, but the principle is sound. You need visual cues in your environment that remind you of where you are going. This isn't magic. It isn't about manifesting results by staring at a picture of a Ferrari. It is about attention management. Your environment is constantly trying to pull you back to the status quo. Visual anchors, a map on your wall, a specific screensaver, a written goal on your mirror, are counterstrikes. They interrupt the drift. They remind you 50 times a day that you are on a mission. The quarterly pulse. A vision is not a static document that you write once and bury in a drawer. It is a living thing. It needs to be fed. Commit to a quarterly vision check-in. Every 90 days, sit down with your snapshot. Ask yourself, is this still what I want? Have I moved closer? Do I need to adjust the course? It is okay to change your vision. In fact, as you grow, your vision should change. You will reach a summit you thought was the top of the mountain, only to see a higher peak behind it. That is progress. What is not okay is changing your vision every time it gets hard. That is pivoting to avoid pain. There is a difference between refining your direction and lowering your standards. If you find yourself shrinking your goals because you are afraid you won't hit them, stop. That is the old identity trying to regain control. Keep the goal. Change the strategy. The magnet effect. When you get this right, something strange starts to happen. You start to experience what looks like luck, but is actually alignment. When you are crystal clear about where you are going, you signal that clarity to the world. People are drawn to certainty. Investors, partners, and friends want to be around someone who is going somewhere. You become a magnet for opportunities that match your vision. You will also find that you have a new kind of energy. It is not the frantic energy of someone trying to survive. It is the calm, focused energy of someone on a path. You stop being reactive. You stop letting other people's emergencies become your priorities. You wake up with a sense of agency. But here is the catch. You can have the most magnificent, detailed, high-definition vision in the world. You can have the identity of a champion and the beliefs of a giant. You can see the mountaintop clearly, but standing between you and that mountain is a valley filled with fog, thorns, and shadows. The moment you commit to a bold vision, a force will rise up to stop you. It is a primitive, biological force designed to keep you safe, small, and silent. It is the gatekeeper of your potential. Most people see this force and turn back, convincing themselves they weren't ready. But you are going to learn that this force is not a stop sign. It is actually a compass, pointing you exactly where you need to go. Chapter 5, Fearless Action. You are standing on the edge of a diving board. The water is blue, the depth is safe, and you know how to swim. But you do not jump. You stand there, shivering slightly, looking at the surface. You tell yourself you are just checking the wind direction. You tell yourself you are waiting for the sun to come out from behind a cloud. You tell yourself you need to analyze the angle of entry one more time. But you're not analyzing, you are stalling. This is the action gap. It is the vast, silent canyon between the life you have designed in your head and the life you are actually living. In the previous chapters, we upgraded your identity, rewired your beliefs, and architected a bold vision. You have the map, you have the vehicle, you have the fuel, but none of that matters if you do not turn the key. Most people spend their entire lives idling in the driveway, revving the engine, and calling it a journey. They confuse planning with progress. They confuse researching with doing. This chapter is where we end the simulation. We are going to dismantle the single greatest barrier to your potential, the lie that you need to feel ready before you move. The logic trap. Fear is an incredible shapeshifter. If fear simply showed up as trembling hands and a racing heart, it would be easy to identify. You would say, "I am scared," and you could deal with it. But fear is smarter than that, especially if you are an intelligent person. For smart people, fear disguises itself as logic. It shows up as due diligence. It shows up as waiting for the right timing. It whispers reasonable-sounding excuses into your ear. It tells you that you need to read one more book before you start the business. It tells you that you need to get another certification before you ask for the promotion. It tells you that the economy is a little unstable right now, so it is better to wait for next quarter. This is not logic. This is procrastination wearing a suit. It is a defense mechanism designed to keep you safe from the possibility of failure, rejection, or embarrassment. We call this analysis paralysis, but it is really just fear of the unknown. You are trying to solve a puzzle that cannot be solved in your head. You are trying to predict the outcome of an action you haven't taken yet. The truth is that you will never have enough information to guarantee success. You will never feel 100% ready. The stars will never align perfectly. By waiting for certainty, you are actually choosing stagnation. While you are analyzing the wind speed, someone less qualified and less prepared than you is already in the water, swimming toward the island you want to reach. They didn't have more courage, they just had less hesitation. The confidence paradox. There is a fundamental misunderstanding about how confidence works. Most people view confidence as a prerequisite for action. They think it is a fuel tank that they need to fill up before they can leave the garage. They wait for the feeling of, "I can do this," to arrive, thinking that once it arrives, the action will be easy. This is backward. Confidence is not the fuel, it is the exhaust. Confidence is the byproduct of survival. You take an action that scares you, you survive the experience, and your brain updates its database. It says, "Oh, we did that hard thing and we didn't die. I guess we are capable of that." That realization is what we call confidence. You cannot get it in advance. You have to buy it with risk. If you are waiting to feel confident before you make the sales call, or publish the article, or have the difficult conversation, you will wait forever. The feeling of fear is not a sign that you should stop. It is a sign that you are about to do something that matters. The only people who don't feel fear are the people who have stopped growing. If your goals don't make your stomach turn over slightly, they aren't big enough. You have to invert your relationship with the feeling of readiness. Instead of saying, "I will act when I feel ready," you must adopt the rule, "I will feel ready after I act." You act to build the feeling, not the other way around. The compass of discomfort. We need to reframe what fear actually is. In the modern world, we are rarely in physical danger. The fear you feel before a public speech or a high-stakes meeting is not a survival signal. It is an ego signal. It is your brain trying to protect your identity from being bruised. But here's the secret, that fear is actually a compass. Resistance is a directional signal. If you have a list of 10 things to do today and one of them makes you feel a spike of dread, that is almost certainly the most important thing on the list. The dread is an indicator of significance. It means there is growth on the other side of that action. When you start to view fear as a compass, everything changes. You stop asking, "How do I avoid this feeling?" and start asking, "What is this feeling pointing me toward?" If you are terrified of launching your project, it means the project matters to you. If you are terrified of being honest in your relationship, it means the relationship matters to you. Follow the fear. It is showing you exactly where your next level is hiding. The mechanics of courage. So how do we actually move when every fiber of our being wants to stay still? We cannot rely on willpower alone. Willpower is a battery that drains throughout the day. We need systems that bypass our emotional resistance. The first tool is the 10-second decision rule. The moment you see an opportunity or identify a necessary action, a countdown clock begins. You have about 10 seconds before your brain starts inventing excuses. In those first few seconds, your intuition is speaking. After 10 seconds, your fear takes over and starts rationalizing why you shouldn't do it. You must learn to move within that 10-second window. If you have the impulse to speak up in a meeting, raise your hand immediately. If you have the thought to send an email, open the draft before you can talk yourself out of it. You are essentially throwing your hat over the wall so that you have to climb over to get it. You are committing your future self to an action before your present self can retreat. The second tool is the 5-minute slice. Often we freeze because the task in front of us looks like a mountain. Write a book is terrifying. Start a business is overwhelming. Your brain looks at the energy required and slams on the brakes. The solution is to slice the mountain. Do not commit to finishing the task. Commit to doing it for 5 minutes. Anyone can do anything for 5 minutes. Tell yourself, "I'm just going to open the document and write for 5 minutes." Or "I'm just going to look up the phone number." This lowers the barrier to entry. It tricks your brain. But here's what happens. Once you start, the friction disappears. The hardest part of physics is overcoming static friction, getting a stationary object to move. Once it is moving, kinetic friction is much lower. It is easier to keep going than it is to start. By committing to 5 minutes, you overcome the static friction. Usually, you will find that 5 minutes turns into an hour because the reality of the work is never as scary as the anticipation of it. Building the muscle. Courage is not a personality trait, it is a muscle, and like any muscle, It atrophies if you don't use it. You need to train it daily. Implement a fear win protocol. Every single day, do one thing that makes you slightly uncomfortable. It doesn't have to be life-changing. It can be asking for a discount on your coffee. It can be sitting in the front row when you usually sit in the back. It can be sending a compliment to someone you find intimidating. You are not doing this for the outcome. You are doing it for the rep. You are teaching your nervous system that it is safe to be uncomfortable. You are casting a vote for your new identity. I am the kind of person who acts despite fear. When you do this consistently, your baseline for fear shifts. Things that used to paralyze you become normal. You expand your zone of competence. You realize that the monster in the closet was just a pile of clothes, but you only realize that if you open the door. The trap of busyness. There is a specific pitfall you must watch out for as you start to take action. It is the trap of mistaking motion for progress. It is very easy to feel busy without being bold. You can spend 8 hours a day answering emails, organizing your files, and tweaking your website colors. You will feel exhausted at the end of the day. You will feel like you worked hard, but you haven't actually moved the needle. This is productive procrastination. You are doing low-value work to avoid the high-value, scary work. You are clearing the decks, but you never actually sail the ship. You must be ruthless about this. Ask yourself, what is the one move I am avoiding? That is usually the only move that matters. Doing 20 easy things does not equal doing one brave thing. Do the brave thing first. Eat the frog. Do it before you check your messages, before you let the world dictate your agenda. If you do the scariest thing first, the rest of the day is a victory lap. Scripting the leap. Sometimes, the fear comes from simply not knowing what to say or do in the moment. The uncertainty of the execution freezes us. In these cases, you can lower the temperature by scripting the hard moments. If you have to negotiate a salary, write down exactly what you will say. If you have to fire a client, script the opening sentence. Practice it out loud. Do it in the shower. Do it in the car. When you script the opening, you reduce the cognitive load. You don't have to think about what to do, you just have to execute the script. It's like an actor learning their lines. Once the lines are automatic, you can focus on the performance. You are removing variables. You are paving the road so that when it's time to drive, you don't have to worry about potholes. The green light. Ultimately, this comes down to a decision about how you want to live. Do you want to live a life of safety, where you never risk failure, but also never taste glory? Or do you want to live a limitless life, where you are constantly colliding with your potential? You have to decide that your dreams are more important than your comfort. You have to decide that the pain of regret is worse than the pain of rejection. When you start moving, the universe responds. You will find that the things you were so afraid of are rarely as bad as you imagined. You will find that you are stronger than you gave yourself credit for. You will find that action cures fear. But as you start to gain momentum, as you start to become a person of action, you will notice something shifting around you. You will start to feel a new kind of friction. It won't be coming from inside your head. It will be coming from the outside. You are changing, but the world around you is staying the same. You are speeding up, which means relative to you, everyone else is slowing down. You are about to discover that the greatest threat to your new limitless life might not be your own fear anymore. It might be the people you eat dinner with. Chapter 6, Success Circle. Imagine you are trying to run a marathon. You have trained your legs, you have bought the best shoes, and you have the mindset of a champion. But there is one problem. You are attempting to run this marathon while waist-deep in water. No matter how hard you push, the resistance is constant. Every step requires 3 times the effort it should. You are exhausted before you even hit the halfway mark. Eventually, you stop running and just try to keep your head above the surface. This is exactly what you are doing when you try to build a limitless life while surrounded by people who are committed to staying small. You are fighting the physics of your social environment. You might think you are an independent operator, immune to the influence of others. You might think your willpower is strong enough to override the negativity, the cynicism, and the low standards of the people you spend your weekends with. You are wrong. Environment is the invisible hand that shapes human behavior. It acts like a thermostat. If you are a person who wants to run at 100 degrees of ambition, but you are in a room set to 65 degrees of comfort, one of two things will happen. Either you will expend all your energy trying to heat up the room, which is exhausting and usually futile, or the room will cool you down. In almost every case, the room wins. The contagion of average. We like to believe that our thoughts are our own, but the reality is that we are porous. We absorb the attitudes, beliefs, and standards of the people we interact with most. This is not a metaphor, it is biology. Humans are wired for social mimicry. We unconsciously copy the posture, the language, and the energy of our tribe because for thousands of years, fitting in meant survival. If your closest circle spends their time complaining about their bosses, you will eventually find yourself looking for things to complain about. If they view money as evil or scarce, you will develop anxiety around wealth. If they mock people who try too hard, you will subconsciously cap your effort to avoid their judgment. This is the contagion of average. It is not malicious. Your friends and family likely love you, but they love the version of you that fits into their world. When you start to grow, you disrupt the ecosystem. You become a mirror that reflects their own stagnation back at them. You will hear it in the subtle comments. You've changed. Don't work too hard. Why can't you just be happy with what you have? These sound like concerns, but they are actually control mechanisms. They are the group's immune system trying to kill the virus of ambition. They are trying to pull you back to the baseline because your growth makes them uncomfortable. But the opposite is also true. When you step into a circle of high performers, the social pressure flips. In a room of millionaires, making money is not seen as greedy, it is seen as a solvable puzzle. In a room of athletes, physical fitness is not a chore, it is a standard. When you are the least successful person in the room, your performance rises almost automatically. You don't have to force yourself to level up. You level up just to fit in. This is the power of a success ecosystem. The lone wolf lie. There is a romantic myth in our culture about the self-made success. We love the image of the lone wolf who conquers the world through sheer grit, ignoring everyone else. This is a lie. There is no such thing as a self-made person. Every high performer you admire, every billionaire, every champion, every artist was supported by a team, a mentor, or a peer group that made their success possible. Trying to change your life in isolation is a losing strategy. Willpower is a finite resource. If you have to use your willpower to fight your own environment every day, you will have none left to build your future. You need an environment that recharges you, not one that drains you. Choosing your environment is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of intelligence. It is an admission that you are human and that you are affected by your surroundings. The strongest people are not the ones who resist the current. They are the ones who swim in a river that is flowing in the direction they want to go. The quarantine protocol. To build this ecosystem, you first need to stop the bleeding. You need to perform a ruthless audit of your current influences. This is not just about people, it is about inputs. Think of your mind as a high-performance engine. You cannot put sludge in the tank and expect race car performance. Who are the 5 people you text the most? What are the last 5 podcasts you listen to? What is the tone of the group chat you check every morning? You need to map your influences. Categorize them into 2 buckets, expanders and shrinkers. Expanders are the people who make you feel capable. They ask you about your ideas. They celebrate your wins without jealousy. When you leave a conversation with them, you feel energized. Shrinkers are the people who make you feel tired. They gossip. They focus on problems rather than solutions. They use sarcasm to undercut your enthusiasm. When you leave a conversation with them, you feel heavy. You do not need to cut everyone off overnight. That is dramatic and unnecessary. You simply need to adjust the volume. You need to dial down the time you spend with shrinkers and dial up the time you spend with expanders. You are not abandoning people. You are protecting your potential. You are creating a quarantine zone around your dreams until they are strong enough to survive the infection of cynicism. Engineering the upgrade. The most common objection to this advice is, but I don't know any high performers. I live in a small town. My friends are all I have. This is a solvable problem. You do not need to be best friends with a celebrity to upgrade your circle. You just need people who are slightly ahead of you, or even people who are at your level but are just as hungry as you are. Start by upgrading one seat at the table. Look for one person in your periphery who seems to be on a growth path. Reach out to them. Do not ask to pick their brain. That is taking. Offer value. Send them an article relevant to their work. Congratulate them on a specific win. Build a bridge based on shared ambition. If you cannot find these people in your physical reality yet, use the principle of proximity by content. We live in an age where you can have the greatest minds in the world talking to you for hours a day. When you listen to a podcast or read a book by a high achiever, you are simulating a mentorship. You are spending time in their headspace. You are learning how they think, how they speak, and how they view the world. Fill the white space of your day with these voices. Let them drown out the negativity of your default environment. If you listen to a millionaire talk about business for an hour a day, you are spending more time with them than you are with your skeptical cousin. Over time, their voice becomes your inner voice. The void. As you start to shift your circle, you will encounter a strange and uncomfortable phenomenon. We call it the void. This is the period where you have distanced yourself from your old crowd, but you haven't yet fully integrated into a new one. You will feel lonely. You will feel isolated. You will question if you are making a mistake. Do not panic. The void is not a sign that you are failing. It is a sign that you are transitioning. It is the hallway between two rooms. You cannot enter the new room until you leave the old one, and that means spending some time in the hallway. Most people get scared in the void and run back to their old friends because loneliness feels worse than stagnation. Do not do this. Use the void. Use the solitude to work on your identity blueprint and your bold vision. Use it to get comfortable with yourself. You will also feel guilt. You will feel like you are leaving people behind. You need to reframe this. You are not abandoning them. You are leading them. You cannot help anyone by staying stuck in the mud with them. The best way to help your friends and family is to show them what is possible. By breaking your own limits, you give them permission to break theirs. Some will follow you, some won't. That is their choice, not your burden. The new normal. When you successfully build a success circle, the friction disappears. You no longer have to apologize for your ambition. You no longer have to hide your wins. In this new ecosystem, growth is the default. When you say you want to double your income, nobody laughs. They ask, how and what's the plan? When you fail, they don't say, I told you so. They say, get up, fix it, and go again. You will find that your standards rise without you having to use willpower. If everyone around you wakes up early, you will start waking up early. If everyone around you reads books, you will start reading books. You are hacking your own biology. You are using your need to fit in as a tool for greatness. But having the right people around you is only part of the equation. The environment sets the stage, but it does not do the work. You can be in a room full of geniuses and still accomplish nothing if you do not have a way to translate that inspiration into daily motion. You have the identity, you have the belief, you have the vision, you have the action habit, and now you have the tribe. The engine is built and the road is clear. Now we need to talk about the transmission. We need to talk about how to move from short bursts of heroic effort to a smooth, unstoppable rhythm that compounds over time. We need to stop relying on motivation and start building something much more powerful, something that keeps moving even when you are asleep. Chapter 7, Growth Momentum. Imagine you are trying to push a car that has broken down on a flat road. You get behind the bumper, plant your feet, and push with everything you have. Your muscles burn, your lungs scream for air, and for the first few seconds, the car does not move an inch. It feels like you are pushing against a mountain. Then, slowly, the tires rotate. You gain an inch, then a foot. You keep pushing, straining against the dead weight of the metal. But as the car begins to roll, something shifts. The physics change. Suddenly, you aren't fighting to start the movement, you are simply maintaining it. Eventually, the car is rolling fast enough that you can jog alongside it with just one hand on the trunk. What required 100% of your effort at the start now requires 10%. This is the power of momentum, and it is the missing link between the people who work hard but stay stuck and the people who seem to glide effortlessly toward massive success. Most people live their lives in a perpetual state of starting. They get motivated, they push the car with all their might for 3 days, and then they stop to rest. The car rolls to a halt. When they are ready to move again, they have to overcome that crushing static friction all over again. They are exhausted, not because they are doing too much, but because they are constantly starting over. This chapter is about ending the start-stop cycle. It is about taking the identity, beliefs, vision, and action we have built so far and turning them into a self-sustaining machine. We are going to shift your focus from heroic sprints to the quiet compounding force of momentum. The friction trap. There is a dangerous addiction in the world of personal growth. It is the addiction to the sprint. We love the montage sequence in movies where the hero transforms their life in 3 minutes of high-intensity training. We love the idea of the all-nighter, the 30-day challenge, and the total life overhaul. These sprints feel good because they are dramatic. They feed the ego. You feel like a warrior because you are suffering, but sprints are unsustainable. They are designed to end, and when they end, you crash. You burn out, you slip back into old habits, and you lose the ground you gained. Sustainable growth is not built on intensity, it is built on consistency. This is not a sexy concept, but it is the truth. The goal is not to have one perfect day where you do everything right. The goal is to have 300 good days where you simply show up. When you build momentum, you reduce the friction of living. Every time you repeat a behavior, you are carving a neural pathway in your brain. The first time you do it, you are hacking through a jungle with a machete. The 100th time, you are walking down a paved highway. Momentum makes the hard things easy. It turns discipline into default. This connects directly back to your identity. Every time you execute a habit, you are casting a vote for the person you want to be. When you do this consistently, you build a reservoir of self-trust. You stop wondering if you will do the work, and you start expecting it of yourself. The question shifts from, "Do I feel like doing this?" to, "This is what I do." The Keystone Architecture. You do not need to overhaul every minute of your day to build this kind of momentum. In fact, trying to change everything at once is a guarantee of failure. You need to be a sniper, not a machine gunner. You need to identify your keystone actions. In architecture, a keystone is the central stone at the summit of an arch that holds all the other stones in place. If you remove it, the arch collapses. In your life, there are a few specific behaviors that hold everything else together. These are high-leverage actions. When you do them, the rest of your day falls into line. For a writer, the keystone action might be writing 500 words before doing anything else. If they do that, they feel like a writer, and they make better choices about their time for the rest of the day. For a leader, it might be a 10-minute strategic review every morning. You need to look at your week and identify the 2 or 3 actions that drive 80% of your progress. These are usually the things you avoid. They are the things that move the needle on your bold vision. Everything else is just noise. Once you identify these keystones, you must protect them with your life. You build a fortress of routine around them. You decide when they happen, where they happen, and how they happen. You remove the decision-making process entirely. You don't wake up and ask, "Should I do my deep work today?" That is a question that invites negotiation, and negotiation invites weakness. You pre-decide. The decision was made yesterday or last month. Today, you are just the executioner. Designing for the worst day. Here is where most people fail. They design their routines for their best days. They create a schedule that works perfectly when they have had 8 hours of sleep, the sun is shining, and they have zero interruptions. But you do not live in a laboratory. You live in the real world. You will get sick. You will have family emergencies. You will have days where you feel like you are wading through concrete. If your routine requires you to be at 100% capacity to execute it, your routine is fragile. It will break the moment life gets messy. You need to design for your worst day. You need a minimum viable routine. This is the bad day protocol. You need to define what it looks like to keep your momentum alive when everything is going wrong. If your keystone action is to write for an hour, your bad day protocol might be to write 1 paragraph. If your action is to make 10 sales calls, the protocol might be to send 1 email. The goal on a bad day is not progress. The goal is continuity. You are protecting the chain. You are proving to yourself that even on your darkest day, you do not abandon your identity. There is immense power in doing the bare minimum when you want to do nothing. It keeps the car rolling. It prevents the static friction from setting back in. The myth of perfection. Perfectionism is the enemy of momentum. Perfectionism says if I can't do it perfectly, I shouldn't do it at all. It says I missed yesterday, so the streak is ruined, and I might as well give up. This is all or nothing thinking, and it is a hallmark of the amateur. The professional understands that life is messy. The professional does not aim for a perfect record. They aim for a resilient record. Adopt the rule, never miss twice. If you miss a day, you have not failed. You have simply stumbled. A stumble is not a fall unless you stay down. The moment you miss a keystone action, your only priority becomes doing it the next time. You do not spiral into shame. You do not analyze why you are a failure. You simply restart. 1 missed day is an anomaly. 2 missed days is the beginning of a new habit, the habit of quitting. You must be ruthless about this. You can survive a bad day, but you cannot survive the acceptance of a bad standard. The boredom barrier. As you build momentum, you will run into a wall that very few people talk about. It is not the wall of exhaustion or the wall of fear. It is the wall of boredom. When you start a new journey, everything is exciting. You have the dopamine hit of novelty, but momentum is built on repetition, and repetition is by definition boring. You will wake up one day and realize that doing the work is no longer thrilling. It is just work. This is where the amateurs quit. They mistake boredom for a sign that something is wrong. They think, I'm not passionate about this anymore, or I need to find a new strategy. So they jump to a new project, looking for that fresh dopamine hit, and they destroy their momentum. You must reframe boredom. Boredom is not a signal to quit. It is a signal of mastery. It means you have internalized the skill. It means the car is rolling fast. The greatest athletes, investors, and creators in the world are not the ones who find the work constantly exciting. They are the ones who can endure the boredom of doing the same reps over and over again because they are in love with the result, not just the entertainment value of the process. Fall in love with the plateau. Embrace the grind of the mundane. That is where the compounding happens. The compounding effect. When you respect the laws of momentum, something magical happens. The results start to compound. Compounding is difficult for the human brain to understand. We think linearly. We think that if we put in 1 unit of effort, we should get 1 unit of result. But momentum is exponential. In the beginning, the results are invisible. You are putting in the work, protecting your keystones, and showing up on bad days, but your life looks exactly the same. This is the valley of disappointment. It is where most people give up because they don't see the payoff. But if you stay with it, the curve bends. The small improvements stack on top of each other. Your skills improve, your network expands, your reputation solidifies, and your identity hardens into steel. Suddenly, the results explode. You achieve in a month what used to take you a year. People look at you and say you are lucky. They say you are an overnight success. They didn't see the pushing. They didn't see the bad days where you did the bare minimum just to keep the chain alive. They didn't see the boredom you endured. They only see the car moving at high speed, and they assume it was always moving that fast. The automatic life. The ultimate goal of growth momentum is to make success automatic. You want to reach a point where it is harder to fail than it is to succeed. Think about your current bad habits. You probably don't have to try to check your phone or procrastinate. Those behaviors are automatic. They run on momentum. We are simply flipping the script. We are building a life where taking bold action, learning, and growing are the default settings. You are building a system that carries you. On the days when your willpower is gone, your routine takes over. Your environment pushes you forward. Your identity pulls you up. You are no longer fighting yourself. You are flowing. But there is a danger here. A fast car is a beautiful thing, but a fast car without a destination is just a dangerous projectile. And a fast car with only one seat is a lonely ride. You can build all the momentum in the world. You can achieve every goal on your list. You can become a machine of productivity and success. But if you stop there, you will eventually hit a ceiling that no amount of effort can break through. You will find that personal achievement, no matter how massive, has a hollow aftertaste. To truly become limitless, you have to tap into a fuel source that is cleaner and more powerful than personal ambition. You have to look at the passenger seat. You have to realize that the journey was never just about you. Chapter 8, Beyond Self. There is a specific moment that every high achiever eventually faces, and it is usually terrifying. It happens right after the biggest win of their life. You chase a goal for 5 years, the promotion, the business exit, the dream house, and you finally get it. You pop the champagne. You receive the congratulations. You feel a surge of dopamine that lasts for about 48 hours. And then silence. You wake up 3 days later, and the house is just a building. The title is just words on a screen. The money is just digits. You look around at the summit you fought so hard to reach, and you feel a strange, hollow ache in your chest. You ask yourself the most dangerous question a human being can ask. Is this all there is? This is the arrival fallacy. It is the belief that personal achievement will permanently satisfy your soul. It won't. Success without contribution is just a shiny cage. You can have the biggest identity, the boldest vision, and the most disciplined momentum in the world, but if your limitless life ends with you, it is not limitless. It is a dead end. To truly unlock the highest level of human potential, you have to break the final seal. You have to expand your definition of success to include something bigger than your own comfort and your own ego. You have to stop playing a single-player game. The cleanest fuel. We need to look at this through the lens of performance, not just morality. This is not a sermon about being a good person. This is a strategy for endurance. Motivation based on personal gain is what we call dirty fuel. It burns hot and fast. When you are working just to buy a better car or prove your high school bully wrong, you can generate a lot of energy. But that energy has a half-life. Once you get the car, or once you realize the bully doesn't care, the fuel runs out. You hit a wall of apathy. Contribution is clean fuel. It is nuclear. It burns forever. When you are fighting for something that benefits your family, your community, or the next generation, you tap into a reservoir of resilience that simply does not exist when you are fighting only for yourself. Think about a parent lifting a car off a child. They can do it not because they want to look strong, but because the why is external to them. When you tie your goals to impact, you stop being the center of the universe. You become a vessel for something that needs to get done. This shifts the pressure. You are no longer worried about looking foolish. You are worried about letting people down. And that shift allows you to endure pain, rejection, and boredom that would crush a selfish person. The legacy trap. Most people misunderstand legacy. They think legacy is something you leave behind when you die. They think it is a building with your name on it or a trust fund. Legacy is not what you leave, it is what you live. It is the transfer of energy, standards, and belief from you to the people around you, happening in real time, every single day. When you start thinking in terms of legacy, your time horizon shifts. You stop obsessing over the next quarter and start thinking about the next quarter century. You realize that your life is a story that you are actively writing and that other people are reading that story to figure out what is possible for them. This changes how you make decisions. A short-term win that compromises your values becomes unattractive because it stains the legacy. A long-term project that requires sacrifice becomes attractive because it builds the foundation for others. You stop asking, "What can I get out of this?" and start asking, "What can I build that will outlast me?" The myth of the billionaire philanthropist. There is a pervasive myth that you need to be rich, famous, or retired before you can make an impact. We tell ourselves, "I'll give back when I make my first million," or "I'll mentor someone when I'm an expert." This is procrastination disguised as humility. If you wait until you have enough to give, you will never give, because the definition of enough always moves. Impact does not require a platform. It requires intention. You can change the trajectory of a human life with a single conversation. You can raise the standard of an entire office by being the one person who refuses to gossip. You can change your family's financial future by breaking a generational cycle of debt. You do not need to save the world to live a life of contribution. You just need to serve the person standing right in front of you. Some of the most influential people in history were not famous. They were just deeply useful to their immediate circle. They created a microclimate of growth that eventually spread. The martyrdom mistake. On the flip side, there is the myth that contribution requires self-sacrifice. We have this cultural image of the martyr, the person who burns themselves out to help others, who gives until they are empty. This is not thinking big. This is poor resource management. You cannot pour from an empty cup. If you destroy your own health, finances, or sanity in the name of helping others, you become a liability, not an asset. Value creation is the engine of sustainable success. The more you grow, the more you have to give. The more money you make, the more problems you can solve. The more influence you gain, the more doors you can open for others. Contribution and personal growth are not opposing forces. They are a flywheel. Your growth allows you to contribute, and your contribution gives you a reason to keep growing. Mapping your impact. So how do we operationalize this? How do we take impact from a buzzword to a daily practice? Start by asking, who benefits when I win? Make a list. If you achieve your bold vision, who else's life gets better? Maybe it is your children, who see a model of courage instead of fear. Maybe it is your employees, who get better opportunities. Maybe it is your clients, whose problems get solved. Keep this list visible. When you are tired, when the momentum feels like it is slipping, look at the list. Remind yourself that your quitting doesn't just hurt you, it steals a future from the people on that list. Next, map your skills to service. You have a unique stack of talents and experiences. There is a specific problem in the world or in your neighborhood that matches your skill set. You don't need to start a nonprofit. You just need to find the intersection between what I am good at and what people need. Maybe you are great at organization. Can you help a chaotic local charity streamline their operations? Maybe you are great at fitness. Can you help a friend get their health back? This is not about grand gestures. It is about turning your competence into contribution. The silent observer. There is a powerful visualization that can keep you honest. Imagine there is a camera crew following you around 24 hours a day. They are broadcasting your life to a single viewer. That viewer is someone you care about deeply, perhaps a younger sibling, a child, or even a younger version of yourself. They are watching everything. They are watching how you handle stress. They are watching how you treat the waiter. They are watching whether you keep your promises. They are using your life as a tutorial for how to live theirs. What do you want to teach them? If you want to teach them courage, you have to do scary things. If you want to teach them integrity, you have to tell the truth when it costs you money. If you want to teach them big thinking, you have to refuse to settle. Living as an example is the highest form of teaching. People rarely listen to what you say, but they always watch what you do. Your life is the lesson. Make sure it is a lesson you are proud to teach. The weekly audit. To keep this top of mind, add a simple question to your weekly review. Who is better off because I showed up this week? If the answer is nobody, you are drifting back into the ego trap. You are becoming a consumer of life rather than a contributor. The answer doesn't have to be earth-shattering. I listened to my partner when they were stressed. I helped a junior colleague with a presentation. I made someone smile who looked like they were having a bad day. These are deposits in the bank of legacy. Over a lifetime, they compound into a reputation of immense value. You can also practice story sharing. One of the most generous things you can do is to be honest about your struggles. When you pretend to be perfect, you isolate people. You make them feel like their struggles are unique failures. When you share your scars, you give people hope. You show them that struggle is part of the process. Vulnerability is a form of service. The shadow side. As you step into this level of thinking, you must be vigilant against two specific traps. The first is martyr mode, which we touched on. Watch for the resentment that builds when you overgive. If you find yourself thinking, after all I did for them, you have slipped out of contribution and into transaction. You are keeping score. True contribution has no strings attached. If you need a return on investment, make it a business deal, not a gift. The second trap is using impact as ego fuel. It is very easy to become addicted to the praise that comes from helping others. You start doing good deeds, not because they are helpful, but because they make you look like a hero. This is dangerous. It makes your self-worth dependent on external validation. The antidote is to do some things in the dark, help people anonymously, do good work that nobody will ever know about. This trains your character. It proves to you that you are doing it for the right reasons. The infinite loop. When you integrate contribution into your life, you close the loop. Your identity chapter 2 becomes, I am a person who adds value. Your beliefs chapter 3 expand because you see the evidence of your impact. Your vision chapter 4 becomes magnetic because it involves others. Your action chapter 5 becomes fearless because it is not about you. Your circle chapter 6 elevates because generous people attract generous people. Your momentum chapter 7 becomes unstoppable because the purpose is infinite. You have now walked through the entire architecture of a limitless life. You have dismantled the old machinery and installed a new engine. You understand the parts. You understand the theory. But a pile of parts is not a car, and a book full of concepts is not a life. There is one final step. We need to take all these separate threads, identity, belief, vision, action, environment, momentum, and purpose, and weave them into a single unbreakable cord. We need to look at what happens on Monday morning when you close this book and the real world punches you in the face. We need to talk about the future, not the distant future, but the immediate future, the one that starts in the next 5 minutes. Chapter 9, Limitless Future. You have arrived at a dangerous point. You have read the words. You have understood the concepts. You have likely nodded your head in agreement as we dismantled the myths of talent, luck, and timing. You now possess the blueprint for a life that defies the small, safe boundaries you were taught to stay within. But here is the danger. It is possible to know everything in this book and change absolutely nothing. There is a vast graveyard of potential filled with people who read books like this, felt a temporary surge of excitement, and then went right back to their old routines the next morning. They treated the insight as entertainment rather than instruction. They confused reading about the work with doing the work. This chapter is the bridge. It is the crossing point between the theoretical world of what if and the concrete world of what is. We are going to take the separate threads we have spun, identity, belief, vision, action, environment, momentum, and impact, and weave them into a rope strong enough to pull you into a new reality. The integrated machine. You might be tempted to look at the previous chapters as a menu from which you can pick and choose. You might think, I like the idea of bold vision, but I don't want to do the uncomfortable identity work. Or, I'll build a success circle, but I'm not ready for fearless action. That is not how this works. This is not a menu. It is an engine. An engine does not work if you remove the pistons or disconnect the fuel line. It requires every part to function in unison. Think about the loop we have built. Your identity, Chapter 2, sets the ceiling for what you believe you deserve. Those bigger beliefs, Chapter 3, determine the size of the vision, Chapter 4, you are willing to set. That vision is just a hallucination until you apply fearless action, Chapter 5. That action is impossible to sustain without a success circle, Chapter 6, and the systems of growth momentum, Chapter 7. And finally, the whole machine eventually runs out of gas unless it is fueled by a purpose beyond self, Chapter 8. If you ignore your identity, your actions will feel like you are wearing a costume, and you will eventually take it off. If you ignore your environment, your willpower will be crushed by the gravity of average expectations. If you ignore impact, you will reach the mountaintop and feel empty. You must view this as a practice, not a destination. You don't fix your mindset once and move on. You wake up every day and recalibrate. You constantly upgrade your identity to match your new results. You expand your vision as you climb higher. You refine your circle as you outgrow old rooms. This is the cycle of the limitless life. It is a loop that spirals upward forever. The end of waiting. The most immediate shift you should feel right now is the death of the waiting game. For years, you have likely been waiting for permission. You were waiting to feel ready. You were waiting for the economy to improve, for your kids to grow up, for your boss to notice you, or for some magical sense of confidence to descend upon you like a dove. You now know that confidence is a trailing indicator, not a leading one. You know that ready is a lie designed to keep you safe. You have the framework. You understand the mechanics of your own psychology. This removes the mystery, and with it, the excuse to stall. You can rewrite your story starting today. The past is nothing more than a data point. It is a record of how you used to think, not a prediction of how you must act. If you have been a procrastinator for 20 years, that is simply evidence of your old identity. It has no bearing on what you do in the next hour unless you decide to let it. You are now equipped to handle bigger challenges because you have stopped viewing fear as a stop sign. You see it as a compass. When the knot in your stomach tightens, you don't retreat, you lean in, knowing that the discomfort is simply the sensation of your comfort zone expanding. You have the tools to respond to life rather than reacting to it. You are no longer a leaf blowing in the wind. You are the wind. The ripple effect. As you integrate this work, the first place you will see a tangible difference is in your relationships. This is often where the rubber meets the road. When you bring a fuller, more grounded version of yourself to the table, the dynamic changes. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable. You stop people-pleasing. You stop apologizing for having standards. This can be jarring for the people around you, but it is the healthiest thing you can do for them. You become a lighthouse. By living your limitless life, you silently give permission to everyone around you to do the same. Your friends, your family, and your colleagues are watching. When they see you taking risks, setting boundaries, and refusing to settle for mediocrity, it forces them to examine their own choices. You will raise the standard of your environment simply by being in it. You will attract people who resonate with your new frequency. You will find that the conversations you have shift from gossip and complaints to ideas and growth. You will build relationships based on shared ambition rather than shared history. Some people will fall away. That is the price of admission. But the people who stay and the new people you attract will form a circle that pushes you higher than you ever could have gone alone. The new normal. What does this actually look like in practice? What will you be able to do tomorrow that you couldn't do yesterday? You will aim higher without feeling like a fraud. You will set goals that used to feel like they belonged to other people, the wealthy, the lucky, the gifted, and you will realize they are available to you. You will hold these goals without immediately talking yourself out of them. You will look at a massive target and think, I can figure that out. You will start and sustain bold projects. The book you wanted to write, the business you wanted to launch, the move you wanted to make. These will move from the someday pile to the today pile. When the inevitable doubt creeps in, you will not view it as a signal to quit. You will view it as a standard part of the process, like rain during a marathon. You will keep running. You will turn your growth into impact. You will stop obsessing over what you can get and start obsessing over what you can give. You will build things that exist outside of yourself. You will realize that your life is a tool and you are going to use it to make a dent in the universe. The downhill slide. Here is the best news of all. It gets easier. Right now, thinking big requires effort. You have to consciously fight your old programming. You have to remind yourself to act. You have to force yourself to audit your circle. It feels like pushing a boulder uphill. But if you stay with it, the physics flip. As you install these habits and upgrade your identity, the new behaviors become automatic. You won't have to try to be courageous. You will just be courageous because that is who you are. You won't have to force yourself to think big. Small thinking will just feel alien and uncomfortable. Your systems will carry you. Your environment will pull you. Your momentum will push you. You will reach a point where growth happens almost in the background. You will spend less energy fighting your old stories and more energy building your new life. This is the compounding effect of the limitless life. The results you struggle for today will become the baseline you take for granted tomorrow. The first domino. We are at the end of the pages, but we are at the beginning of the work. You cannot close this book and go back to sleep. You cannot unknow what you now know. You need to take immediate action. Not tomorrow, not next week, now. Choose one area where you've been playing small. You know exactly which one it is. It is the one that came to your mind the moment you read that sentence. It is the area where you feel the most frustration, the most envy, or the most regret. Name the specific way you have been shrinking. Have you been undercharging? Have you been staying silent in meetings? Have you been avoiding a difficult conversation? Have you been delaying a launch? Decide that this is where you will plant your flag. This is where you will prove to yourself that you have changed. Define one bold move. It doesn't have to be reckless, but it must be irreversible. It must be an action that commits you. Send the email, book the venue, buy the domain, sign up for the race, make the phone call. Put it on your calendar within the next 24 hours. If you wait longer than 24 hours, the law of diminishing intent takes over. The urgency will fade, the old logic will return, and you will talk yourself out of it. Do not let that happen. Commit publicly or privately. Tell someone you trust. Write a contract to yourself. Make the cost of inaction higher than the cost of action. Treat this move as the official start of your new chapter. The empty chair. I want you to imagine a room. In the center of the room is a chair. Sitting in that chair is a version of you from 5 years in the future. Look at them. They are stronger than you. They are calmer than you. They have achieved the vision you are currently afraid to even write down. They have impacted the lives of people you haven't even met yet. They are living a life that feels like a fantasy to your current self. They are looking back at you right now in this moment. They are watching you hold this book. They are waiting to see what you do next. Everything they have, their joy, their success, their legacy, depends entirely on the decision you make in the next few minutes. If you close this book and do nothing, they cease to exist. They vanish like smoke. But if you act, if you take one small trembling step toward the things that scare you, you breathe life into them. You start the chain reaction that leads inevitably to their existence. You are not stuck. You have never been stuck. You are just waiting for permission to move. Consider this your permission. The cage is open. The map is in your hands. The future is holding its breath. Go.